Hello, welcome to the video. Welcome to 2022. Today's topic of conversation is gonna be a little hard to hear for some of you, and for me, this is a video that I never thought I would have to make, but here we are, and I have to write in third person. In all seriousness, in all seriousness, we're gonna be talking about Cherub of Rosecrest today, and the two main problems that I have tried to kind of, like, the things that have been bugging me about that story. Honestly, I would have published it in 2021. That was the plan. The two main things that I have kind of been dealing with that story and trying to overcome, and just chalking it up to like a first draft, or I blamed the characters at one point. I mean, I think I even said in a video that my characters were just, I needed to cultivate relationships and things were there that weren't there before, and I was just trying to figure out like what was wrong without having to admit that it was me. I know this video is gonna be chaotic. It's gonna be all over the place. Before the subject, I guess, approaches, yes, I've moved. Nothing exciting. I've moved back into the family house. You know, it was just things fell together in that way. And on a more somber note, if you don't know, my fish, Rose, he was a little koi beta. Had him with me for years. I had him with me in this house when I moved out of this house. Shortly into 2022, he just was like, nope, not having it. So this video is dedicated to Rose. This story is different than any other I've ever written for a bunch of different reasons, but one of them was that I was going to be writing from the perspective of a main character who was not American. More so, this person lived and died in the, what did I say, 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s? I can't remember. I've shifted everybody's dates around a little bit, and I'll explain why in a minute. But my main thing was that it didn't sit right with me to write from the perspective of somebody who I don't know what their, like, I don't know if culture is the right word, but I mean, back in the day and in England, it was more of writing from what I didn't know. While I was doing my research and really trying to get into it, at the end of the day, I guess I kind of realized that the story didn't hinder on the fact that these characters weren't in America. And so I was like, then why am I making it harder for myself? One of my solutions for the story was to move them here to America. In terms of editing, this actually, I don't think is gonna be that big of a deal. The cemetery itself, it's staying the same, just because originally I did kind of base it on a cemetery that I know, and I mixed it with an English cemetery that's really famous. I think the blending of those isn't gonna be a big deal. And by moving the location, I get to play more with the characters in a way that makes them seem a lot more real to me. Through writing these characters and getting to know them, the fact that they were English, French, or what have you could still be plausible in a setting where I am more knowledgeable. Now, obviously there will be more research I need to do because I was still not alive in the 1800s, but I think I just feel more comfortable knowing that I have made this change and that it won't hinder the story. In fact, I think it'll make it stronger. So there's a couple things that went into the decision to shift Cherub of Rosecrest from first person perspective to third person. I'm gonna say like limited. One of the reasons is I have never abandoned a project since starting YouTube. Every single book that I have brought to you guys, I have always completed. When I started this whole journey to self-publishing, writing the stories that I wanted to write, I became a lot more selective because I knew that starting something and getting a couple drafts in or whatever, and then coming to you guys and be like, yeah, I abandoned it, was just like not fair. And like, while I used to do that all the time when I was younger, I mean all the time, I don't think I ever finished a story when I was younger. Actually, there were a couple I finished that I was actually proud of, but for the most part, I never finished a story when I was younger. The idea of abandoning this story was just not an option because I believe in this story. You know, this is a story I wanted to tell, and I think there are a lot of like themes and ideas that hopefully can relate to people, you know, for as weird and as, you know, dark as it is. I mean, it's definitely not gonna be for everybody, but there's like messages there that you kind of, you know, to help make you think and, you know, to hopefully look at yourself in a different kind of way. Because of that, as I was writing and editing and struggling through the first person, I just kept getting this sense of I wasn't good enough. Like I wasn't telling the story well enough. I wasn't even buying my own story. and literally like maybe a week and a couple days ago, I was thinking about it and I kind of woke up, and I've been doing a lot of reading lately, specifically I guess third person. Typically I don't resonate with third person, but the stories I've been picking up that I've enjoyed have been in third person. And then it kind of hit me and I was like, okay, what if I wrote the story in third person? So I was like, I'm gonna sit down, rework the first couple chapters. If it works, it works. If not, it doesn't. And I started writing and I started tweaking and I started realizing like it just fit so much better. While I'm still really closely focused in on Florence, I have the ability to kind of pan out and be able to look at the cemetery as a whole. I don't see myself zooming in on other characters so much, but the fact that I have the opportunity to kind of zoom out and it makes sense when I talk about different characters and like their kind of histories, you know, stuff Florence might not necessarily know, or I guess, whoa, hello son. Or I guess more importantly, stuff that she wouldn't care about because she's a very kind of self-contained and she's I don't know if absorbed is the right word, but she's definitely not into thinking about other people in a certain way. As a third person narrator, I can kind of zoom out a little bit from her and bring these other elements in without compromising her as a character. Later on, as things get more complicated and I'll want to play around with third person more, I know it's going to be more and more like difficult, especially because I have not written in third person in like I can actually remember the story that was, I think, my last third person before I like discovered first person and how much I enjoyed it and how easy it was for me. It was in middle school. You know what? I think I know where it is. Let's go find it. This is it. My tub of stories. So before the invention of computers, specifically before I got my own computer, I guess, I used to write everything out by hand. Still in the process of moving, but I remember which binder it's in. Is that it? Also, if you remember, a long time ago, years I guess it's been on this channel, I started a little series where I read through all my old work. I started at the beginning with my very first story that I can ever remember writing. I think I recorded 1 or 2 videos before I abruptly stopped. This story is the reason why I stopped, because I got so overwhelmed and I was like, there is no way, and oh god. But I think, whoop. Oh my god. Okay, where's the year? 2008. I was 13 the last time I wrote in third person. Oh no, the pages are so old. Okay, it's freezing out here. Let's go back outside. I can't do this. Also, my first ever published novel, Winter's Wacky ABCs, and then Me and Christmas Shrek. So here it is in all its glory. A long time ago was the last time I've written third person. And you know what, just for the fun of it, I'm gonna go ahead and go through this awesome story with you guys, but that'll be at the end of the video. For now, I just want to focus on my story. Even though, you know, it has its issues now, I still feel proud of it. I still feel like I'm doing something with it, which is why I do want to make it the best that it can be. And if that means going to third person against every fiber of my being, then so be it. And I know there are tons of people out there who only write in third person, just like I stick to first person. Writing books and stuff, they always say figure out the point of view you want to write from. They really emphasize that each story requires that you think about the different perspectives, and for me, I kind of never understood that. A lot of my stories are character driven, which is why I think it just naturally I gravitate towards that. And even though Cherub is driven by its characters, it's also driven by the setting. I can understand now why third person would be so invaluable. So for any of you third person writers out there, or at least people who are comfortable with it, if you want to leave in the comments like any sort of suggestions or tips, like, because I am so rusty, it's gonna be so bad trying to like get into this mindset. Anything would help, really. And that's where I'm at with Cherub right now. I'm going into my very last semester of school and I am taking, you know, 18 credits. Just like last semester I took 18 credits. I was working, and this semester I'll be working, so finding time and energy to write outside of class and things like that is just kind of difficult at the moment. So I really appreciate your patience. Thank you so much for watching this video. Welcome to 2022. Let's get some writing done. Let's work on these projects. Let's better ourselves in any way we can. That being said, I'll see you guys. Do you guys remember? And I'm sure they still have them, but those little like activity books that you would get at like Barnes and Noble, you know, when you would go with a parent and they'd be like, pick out a book, and then you'd come with them with this spiral bound like notebook looking thing that was like all these activities and games. They were like, I said a book, and you're like, please, and they were like, okay. I had one of those. And this was before age 13. This was when I lived in Rhode Island, so like 5th or 6th grade. I had one of those books. Me and my friend used to play the little games in it all the time, and one of them was take this quiz to find out your rock star name. It was like your birth month mixed with the first letter of the street you grew up on or something like that. And when I figured out my rock star name, I fell in love. Okay, I used that name for everything. My very first email account was Yahoo, and I used that as my username. Every main character I ever had in any of my stories, I named Starson. What was also really funny, looking back, this was kind of in like that in between where we had like a home computer. We had like a little like computer room, you know, where you would have like your dining table, and then there would be that big desk like shoved against the wall, and you had your big like a white bulky computer sitting on it, and it was like the family computer, and like, you know, nobody really used it for anything. I wrote my stories out by hand, and then when it was done, I would type it up. And the best part is I didn't change anything. It wasn't like I was editing. I would just take exactly what was written down and type it. This story is called Light versus Evil, but with Y's, because Starson had like a Y in it, and like mine had a Y in it. Her family just moves to Michigan, Lake Michigan. I had a really funny moment where she didn't know the name of the lake where they moved onto. They had a lake house, and she didn't know like the lake in the backyard was the Lake Michigan. She meets a couple of weird boys who show up in her backyard while she's, you know, they have like a little dock out back, and she's sitting on there just contemplating life, wondering why it's so cold in Michigan. They decide to play a joke on her by one of them dives into the water and pretends to drown, but the other one doesn't help. Apparently there's like a third like little boy with them, and he's like distracted by the little boy. So she dives into the water because that's what you do. She looked around for the guy, but the murky water was stinging her eyes, making it hard to see. He was drifting just ahead of her, eyes closed. She swam toward him and grabbed his shirt and made for the surface, but not before she saw something big, huge, swim away, disappearing from view. I forgot there was a lake monster in this. Starson, lungs burning, didn't care at the moment and swam up, comma, up. I actually like that line. And then turns out the guy was okay. He was just like playing a prank. So one of them had dark hair and one of them had like weird eyes. So before she knew their name, she called them like dark hair and weird eyes. So they like talk for a little bit. She finds out that they're twins. Their names are Chase and Banjo. We don't explain that weird nickname. There's some witty banter. The little boy is named Barney, which is kind of a cute little name for a kid, but he doesn't contribute to the story at all, I don't think, so he's just there. They're about to separate and leave. Chase, the one who had jumped into the water. You want to know why I jumped in the water, he asked, a smile on his face. Why? Sorry. I was hoping I'd see the lake monster, but I got you instead. It's like the next day or something, and the twins' mom comes to welcome Starson's family to the neighborhood, and then the adults get to talking, so the kids kind of go off and do their own thing. I guess there's like a baseball game going on that they can just like walk to. I don't know if it's like a school function or event. Suddenly, the ringtone version of Don't Trust Me filled the air. Does anyone remember that song? Ugh, 303, like the... yes, they were like my favorite, and honestly I still listen to them low-key. There's another character we get introduced. His name is Mac. Again, I don't think he's ever in here again, but he plays baseball. He has a mean father who's also the coach for some reason. There's some girls who are crushing on Chase. Their names are Angel and Whitney. So Chase, are you like gonna go to Amanda's party? No, me and Star are gonna do something later. Starson looked at him. We were? Yeah, don't you remember? He winked. Starson could have swore his eyes had gotten darker, but it was probably just the light. The bright sunshine of the sun streaming down made his eyes darker. Okay. Oh, right, Starson nodded, playing along. Oh, the girl's face fell. Starson could tell she was the leader of the two. Amanda is gonna be sad about that. Chase shrugged. She'll be fine. So the baseball game ends, I guess. And by the next morning, she goes to her first day of school. She has butterflies in her stomach, whether it's for Chase or because, you know, she's going to a new school. But Chase walks her to the office where she has to go to like get her schedule or whatever, and people are like getting out of his way, saying, "What's up, man?" Whatever, blah, blah, blah. Chase, Starson asked. He looked at her. Huh? Yeah? Are you some kind of idol around here or something? Which is funny because I know like in like nowadays, idol is a term for like K-pop stars and, you know, in that kind of like world. And here I was just saying like, are you like a god? Oh, that's cute. For some people, he replied. Why? Because I beat up a senior, he said nonchalantly. What the heck? Oh yeah, so this is like where a little intrigue comes in, because he won't say who he beat up or why he beat him up, only that he used to live in Starson's old house. And she's like, okay, that's weird. And then he kind of starts like following her through all of her classes. As soon as she walks out of like her classes throughout the day, he's just there. And like at this point, I can't tell if like I was trying to be cute or creepy. Some people looked her way and she heard people talking about how they saw her earlier with Chase. She wasn't deaf. But she did like the fact that people knew they knew each other. So then she gets to one class. She introduces herself to the teacher. To the class, he announced, "Everyone, this is Starson, make her feel welcome." And then somebody shouts, "She already has someone to make her feel welcome." Ooh. "Don't get smart with me, Johnny." Like, what? It wasn't me. And then he made a scene for some reason. And then the teacher tells Starson to go sit next to him because that's what you do. Johnny like stared at her the whole class, which is weird. She like confronts him. And then he was like, you know, "What's your problem? Like, you're gonna get your boyfriend to beat me up?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And he plants like this little seed in her head. Chase like isn't like this good guy that she thinks he is. And of course, as soon as she leaves the class, there's Chase being like, "Hey." She had like 15 classes before lunch. Jesus. They're at lunch and they're sitting with Banjo and like their baseball friend Mac, just hanging out. Chase can tell something's off. He's like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, she started getting nervous, though she didn't know why. I know why. "Somebody told me something today." She looked up at him. He was staring past her, a deadly expression on his face. Like deadly, like literally. Starson turned around and spotted Johnny and 4 other guys standing across the cafeteria. They were all staring at either her or Chase. She couldn't tell. She turned back to Chase. He was looking at her like that hadn't just happened. And then his eyes grow dark again, like he's like, I don't know. And then Chase is like, "Come on, I have to tell you something." The big secret is getting revealed, very Twilight-esque. This is where the whole like magic, not like magic system, but like supernatural element like comes into play. And he's really like annoying and cryptic about it. So they go outside, they sit on some bleachers, and Chase says, "You gotta know, Star, that Johnny and the senior Rick were close." I guess the senior that he beat up. "Like brothers. And he took a breath before continuing. When I beat him up, Johnny wasn't happy. That's why he's taking it out on you." He looked at her again, then turned away, "Because he knows I feel for you." Starson didn't know what to say, so she just listened. "What do you mean? What are you talking about? I've known you for 18 hours. And I know you might be thinking, how does he know that? Or why would he take it out on you and not me? What kind of twisted mind does someone have to think like that? Now, you may be thinking that Johnny and me are totally different, like night and day. But the fact of the matter is, we're more alike than you could ever understand." He looked like he might cry. Jesus. "You see, Star," because she has not been able to get a word in. "You see, Star, Johnny and me and those other guys you saw in there, well, we're evil with a Y." "Evil?" Starson asked. "You're not?" Yes, I am. "You see, our minds don't work like yours does, especially yours. And he can sense, S-E-N-C-E, that as well as I can. Your light." He put his hands over his face and rested his elbows on his knees. "And I just thought that if I could get into you, get inside you, see how your mind works, I could. He stood up and walked a couple of feet away. "So what you're trying to say is you were playing me." She didn't know either to be mad or scared. He hung his head. "I'm so sorry. If it makes you feel any better, I didn't get anything out of you. You're too light." He turned and kind of smiled. Ugh. And then instead of asking, "What is light and evil? Why am I light? How are you evil? What did you mean when you played me?" Like assuming already that she realizes that when he jumped and tried to drown himself, he knew she was gonna come in after him and like save him, and somehow he'd be able to like suck some life force out of her. I didn't even know what I was talking about when I wrote this, so I definitely don't know what I'm like reading when I read this. She asks about Rick. "Well," he said, walking back over, "when we sensed you coming, and we could because you're so light. Rick was going to try and get into you, and I didn't want him to. I don't know why, but I couldn't let him hurt you like that. And I didn't even know you then. He looked off, looked back to what he did. So that's why he beat Rick up, because they could sense her like moving here and like coming. What I don't get though, Starson said, is what is evil and light? And also, if you and Johnny are both evil, and so are those other guys, then why aren't you with them? Why fight Rick if you want the same thing? But that's just it though, he said, sitting down next to her and looking her in the eyes. We don't want the same thing. I don't want to be evil. That's why I'm not with them, and that's why I fought Rick, so he couldn't get to you. But I did, he said, ashamed. I got to you. My instincts took over, and now, well now, he drifted off. Now what? Starson said. I don't know, Star. Nothing like this has ever happened. You're the lightest person I'd ever seen. Okay, Starson said. What is evil and light? Thank you. Can you just ask them? That would have been my first question. Like, what are you talking about? And then he goes on to this long speech about how it's basically, you know, good and evil. Good people bring the light, evil people bring the dark. There's like a balance. At one point they fought and I think evil won. Oh, and the big twist is that whenever somebody evil dies, their soul like picks a different person to be the host. So it's like perpetual evil. And that night, Starson goes to sleep. She's like, what the hell just happened? We're only on page 26, mind you, and this is all racing. She's thinking about a lot of stuff and, you know, how her inner instincts are like, well, I guess I have to kill him. And then somebody breaks into her bedroom, and for some reason now she knows like martial arts, so she like knocks this intruder to the floor. Before she knew what she was doing, Starson found herself on top of the person, hands on their neck. A cloud moved away from the moon, and its light streamed in the window, revealing the attacker's face. Johnny. He was gasping for breath. I should hope so. What are you doing here? Starson demanded. I'm sorry, he managed to gasp. I wanted to, but he couldn't get any more out. Starson fought the urge to strangle him here and now and loosened her grip. Her original part of light couldn't stand killing somebody, but her other part would love nothing more than to kill evil. I came to warn you, he said. Yeah, Starson laughed. I believe that one. Why are you, evil, trying to warn me? No, he breathed. Of Chase. Now you're making sense, Starson said. Still can't spell the word sense. That's fine. Don't trust him. And I should trust you? You've been out to get me since I walked into your class. I know. He looked ashamed. That was before I knew he was still out to get you. What? He's still trying to get you. I put the pieces together, and the puzzle has a bad picture on it. She got off of him. Was she so gullible to fall for the same thing twice? Probably. And then it's revealed that before Johnny even realized that Starson, this light person, was coming to town, Chase, like, I guess figured it out. I guess he attacked and killed Rick because I guess maybe like Rick was stronger than him and he wanted to take out like the competition, like he wanted like the light source all for himself. And then we just gloss over the murder of a student, of a child, and Starson asks, where did the evil soul go? We don't know yet, but that's not the point of this story. Then what's the point? The point is you can't trust Chase. And then he's like, and you can't trust me. You can't trust anybody. And then Starson says, let's say I believe you, Starson said, believing him. What do I do? He just looked at her. Apparently this thought hadn't entered his mind. Honestly, I hadn't even thought you'd let me live. I never thought I'd make it this far. And then Johnny just dips because he's like, he can feel the evil in himself taking over because Starson is really sad that like her only friend is like out to get her and she's just not sure what to do, especially because she didn't even know she was light, which she doesn't have any powers or anything, so it's kind of, I don't know. At this point in the story, and like because I have written this so long ago, I have no idea what light even means yet, and I think even writing the story, I had no idea what light meant. Johnny's like, I can't be here, I feel the evil taking over, and he just flies out the window. And then the big climax of the story. In the morning, Starson's getting ready for school. I think her parents like leave and she's figuring out, she's like, well, you know, I can't really trust anybody, but at this point I kind of trust Johnny because he warned me of himself and, you know, he didn't have to do that kind of thing. And then the doorbell rings. When she opened it, Banjo stood there, grinning wider than usual. What? She asked, closing the door behind her. You're light, he said, smiling. I didn't know that. Yeah? Starson said, silently freaking out. Banjo glanced to his right. You have to run, he said, the fake smile instantly gone. Huh? Run, he said, pushing her to the left and blocking something from slamming into her. Taking the hint, Starson dropped her bag and charged right down her... Wait, what? He pushed her. He glanced to his right, pushed her to the left. She runs to the right. I don't know who's right and who's left. This is too much. She heard some struggling behind her and then footsteps bounding after her. Not hesitating at all, she leaped over the guardrail when she got to the corner, but something grabbed her ankle. She landed hard on the grass on the side of the porch. With the wind knocked out of her, she turned over to try to gasp for air, but someone landed with both feet on either side of her hips. She squinted up to find it was Chase. Surprise, surprise. That was the narrator. Ugh. You know, I'm learning to love third person point of view. I really am. Hello there, he said. You know, Star, this game has been real fun and all, but I'm getting bored. Starson took in all the strength she had to kick him in the groin. He groaned and fell over to the left. I hope that hurt, she whispered. Oh. I hope that hurt, she whispered before jumping and looking toward the lake. He yells after her. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's just running for the boardwalk. He catches up with her, grabs her, and then something hits them both into the water. So now everybody's in the water. She felt something overcome her, could feel herself change into what she didn't know. Her vision in the murky water became clear. She found she could breathe easily under the water for the first time ever. Congratulations. With her newly found vision, she saw something big swimming down and down with its find. She swam toward it, unsure whether the person who saved her would be worth saving. Apparently, the monster sensed her and it stopped swimming down. It looked like a giant fish or something. As the monster turned around, it morphed, transformed into a girl, perhaps a year or two younger than Starson. The girl swam towards Starson, her hands holding both boys' shirts. Their eyes were closed. "Johnny!" Starson screamed when she saw him. Her voice worked underwater too, because as you do. "You're light," the girl said, ignoring Starson's scream. "Yes, and you have my friend there," Starson pointed to Johnny. "I thought I was the last one," she said, happy and sad at the same time. "Oh," Starson said impatiently. "Look, what? You just found out there's another light person who's like a mermaid and a fish monster, and you're like, oh, that's nice, like, get out of my way. Look, I'd love to talk to you sometime, but I really need to get my friend to the surface so he can, you know, live." Good one. "But they're evil." "Yeah, but Johnny is good, please," Starson said lamely. Literally. Like, yeah, but he's good, I guess. "Not this one," she said, holding up Chase. Starson couldn't bear to leave him to die, but if she rescued him too, he'd probably kill her. She made a decision. "No, he's bad, but Johnny's good." So she literally just like, "No, you can keep him." "What's your name?" the girl said. "I don't really have the time. If you tell me your name, I'll give him to you," the girl said. Starson. The girl smiled. "I'm Sybil, with 2 Y's. "I get it. Your name is Winter with a Y." "Nice to meet you," Starson said. Sybil pushed Johnny toward her. Starson grabbed him and pushed up to the surface. "Thanks." "No problem. We'll talk later." This is just murder left and right. Nobody seems to care. Starson sat beside a lifeless Johnny on a boardwalk. "Come on," Starson pleaded. "Wake up, Johnny." Why hadn't she taken a CPR class or something, she thought. She put her hands on his chest. "Come on, light powers, bring him back, bring him back," literally. There was not 1 ounce of her that was happy about this, and for that she was thankful. So I guess she was happy that he wasn't dead, whereas before, like, her light was like, yes, kill them or whatever. But now she's like, no, I don't want him to die, which is kind of cute. "Please," she said, closing her eyes and concentrating, "come back." Suddenly, Johnny's chest heaved. She opened her eyes. He turned over and heaved lake water onto the boardwalk. "Johnny!" she exclaimed. He looked up at her and smiled. Wow. Wasn't that beautiful? That was my last experience with third person. God. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, if you have any tips or want to bestow any knowledge about writing third person, please leave them in the comments. I really appreciate it. Good luck with any project you are working on, and I will see you later.